This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, your film and music show, and this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, blues is alive and well, and I have a wonderful guest on the phone with me today, Mr. Victor Wainwright. How you do, Victor?
Hey, Greg, how you doing, buddy? I'm doing great.
Yes. If I may quote your song, "Don't forget about my money."
There you go, man. I don't know. How much money do I owe you for this interview?
You know what? I was watching that video. I love your sense of humor.
Oh, thanks, man. I really do think it's an important part of roots music these days, for sure.
Yeah, but the video, like, and the people in it, like, I like the guy gets out of his car and has those funny looking glasses,
Right. Yeah, I think humor, being self-aware and making light of yourself, and also, the music, it's important, especially when you're singing about a funny topic or something that everyone can relate to. There's infinite topics that you can sing about in blues music, some of which are no longer relatable. And I find that writing and producing music and doing videos on stuff that is absolutely relatable seems to be a hit with our fans.
Yes. Talk about making that video, because, I've watched it 2 or 3 times since this interview was set up, and I just, that was one of my big tie-ins. When Doug asked me if I was interested to do an interview, I looked you up, and this was the video I was seeing. I said, "Yes, Doug, I'm in."
Well, Doug, my publicist, works really, really hard, man, and I appreciate you guys working together to make this happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the video, it reaches and cracks a lot of people up, because everyone can picture themselves or imagine themselves with friends that are like these characters, and in situations, everyone's been in situations like these when someone else comes up and says, "Hey, man, where's my money?"
Excuse me.
It's the blues, depending on if you have it or not.
Oh, you had some nice camera shots and stuff in that too, so.
Yeah, the video, the making of the video. My co-producer and I, his name is Dave Gross. I consider him a member of our team, just like a band member. But he and I took off with our cameras, which are just DSLR cameras, and we filmed our friends based on a storyboard that I had put together after I had written the song, involving all of my friends and band members playing different characters and the different scenes and stuff. And we just wrote permission to get a few locations, but the rest was really done just completely homegrown. I mean, the whole thing was done completely homegrown, just with a few, point and shoot cameras and then of course Dave edited it, which, these days and age, editing is a huge part in making anything like that look good. So I give him credit with giving the video the polish that it needed to get out there and be enjoyable to everyone as it is now.
Yeah, I enjoyed the video. I encourage you to keep on that road, but stop owing people money.
Hey, that's never going to happen in the blues world.
Anytime I interview a blues artist, I always have to bring up some things from the past. Like, I really, really love the Blues Brothers movie, which of course was released the year before you were born. Have you seen the movie, and what do you think of that?
Of course. Well, I think that, again, I think the Blues Brothers did a lot for blues music.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you really want to know my opinion, during that time period, a lot of people became interested in those artists again that Blues Brothers movie was showcasing. I think it was the director Lambert, or they pulled in Johnny Hooker. They pulled in all these people that some people weren't familiar with, and it gave the general public access through this sort of keyhole to look through and see some of the blues world that maybe they weren't familiar with. And of course, it's all satire and all hilarious, much of which, I guess has influenced myself in the direction of videos. I have a lot of sort of funny videos online that are really self-aware and, in my opinion, just make light of ourselves, which I believe the Blues Brothers were doing.
Yeah, I think the Blues Brothers was a real celebration of blues music too. I mean, it's got the comedy, but I think it's a real testament to the artists themselves, and it's still today is talked about. And another film I got to bring up too, of course, speaking of blues, is Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story. Are you familiar with that one?
Oh, yeah, of course. I love it.
I interviewed.
It's funny, but
Yeah.
humor is a great way to introduce people to the music.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great introduction. I mean, what is laughter? I mean, when you think about it, it's just another emotion. Everybody's made up of all these emotions, and laughter, if that's the way that you can bring people together or bring people in, and to then give them access to this amazing music that are also on these movies, that's an A+ for me.
Yes, and of course Doug had connected me with Diana Rain as well, who went from being Home Alone to jazz music. So there's a lot of you out there, and blues music is really, really interesting in that you hear a lot of songs today, especially, and I'm a big fan of pop and all that stuff, but I find there's a lot of lyrics that you're just tuning out because you don't care. Whereas the blues, I think you really latch on to what's being said. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, I would totally agree with that statement. I think it's very true, and you could find examples of it everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, I was reading about your upbringing and stuff on here. You were born just 9 years after me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was reading through and how you got your start. And I was reading about I think you were 10 years old when you first performed. And what was it like? Like, were you never ever nervous, or was it just something that you had such a passion for, you just went for it?
I think in the very beginning, I was more nervous of my family and grandfathers. Sort of, you see, I grew up in a family of musicians. My grandfather taught me how to play piano. My dad and uncles taught me how to sing and perform, and all of that. So growing up around that, I wasn't so nervous of the prospect of playing in front of people or the idea of entertaining. It was more trying to earn the respect and just praise from my family when I first started performing. So I wanted to do it right. And I wanted them to acknowledge that I could do it right. Of course, as a kid, especially, you want that pat on the back, and you want that reassurance that what you're doing is right. Because, you could play the right notes, but that's not necessarily what my family wanted. They wanted me to learn how to entertain. They wanted me to play and use what was behind the notes that I was playing. And those lessons I'm forever grateful for. They really did teach me exactly the things that I needed the most.
And of course, you dreamed of going to the Grammys, and wow, I mean, you got your nominations, and I bet your family were proud of that.
Oh yeah, my mom called me and said I really want to go, and she doesn't do that very often, so I had to find a way to get her there. Even we all flew, the whole band plus my mom, all the way to the Grammys in California from like stepping off of the legendary Rhythm and Blues Cruise, which happens once a year.
Mm-hmm.
We flew all the way from Fort Lauderdale to Los Angeles to go to the Grammys. Made it just in time, and to see the whole spectacle, and it was something else, man. Just something really otherworldly almost. It's a memory I'll never forget.
Do you ever meet any of the legends out there that on your way up to the top?
Inside the blues world, I've met pretty much everyone that I wanted to meet as far as the legends go that were still around when I was coming up,
Mm-hmm.
and also today. But at the Grammys, of course, I met just all sorts of legendary pop icons. Like I stood in line to get a soda with Weird Al Yankovic, and just sort of funny, like just, hey, I know this guy. This guy's a pop icon. Just really funny to be standing in line with someone like that.
I'm a big Weird Al fan. In fact, earlier this month, I interviewed somebody from UHF.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, did you talk to him?
I did, and I thanked him for everything that for every way that he's influenced me, which I think anyone coming up in the 80s, and 90s, they were influenced in a way by his humor and by his satire.
Yeah, yeah. You two should have performed together.
I would have had a great time.
I think you two would have matched up beautifully.
That have been a sight to see for blues fans and for pop fans alike.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'm looking down through here, and through your album list here, and I want to talk about each of your albums individually here. Um, you got Piano from Savannah. Now, I like that. Would you say piano, that's your big instrument of choice, right?
Yes, and back when I was growing up, and my grandfather was still around, he used to call the piano a piana,
Mm-hmm.
so piana. And a lot of people don't really get that at first, piana from Savannah, but I was born and raised in Savannah, Georgia,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a song that I wrote way back in 2003, I think, maybe even earlier, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote it, and it ended up on an album called Shoestring Budget, which wasn't nationally released. It was just released locally in a way that I could support my band. And then later I wrote it and released it as the title track for our first distributed album, The Piano from Savannah.
Yeah, I like that title. And of course, you got Victor Wainwright and the Wild Roots, where you hooked up, of course, with Stephen Dees. And
Right.
yes, Wild Roots. You got 3 albums through this band. Now, talk about that. Now, you got Beale Street and the Bayou, and you got Lit Up, and you got Boomtown. Now,
Right. I partnered up with Stephen Dees all the way back, actually, for Piano from Savannah. He was the producer of that album before we named the band.
okay,
During the recording of that album, and a little bit later, I started to form the band with Stephen, and we came up with the name Wild Roots, which we later named our record company that we started together, and everything else. That was just our business name at the time. And all the projects that he and I worked on together are under that moniker Wild Roots, and it still exists, and we still plan on doing things in the future. It wasn't until recently with our last record that I produced and wrote most of the material myself, which I thought deserved a name change, just with a new direction to Victor Wainwright and the Train.
okay. Yeah. Now, Piano from Savannah, talk about the writing process of that first album, and then the transition between writing that album and your second album.
Well, most of the early stuff was actually written by Stephen Dees.
Okay.
He did a lot of the writing for me. I was younger and wasn't writing as much. Like I said, I started writing mostly for Victor Wainwright and the Train,
Okay.
which are my most recent Grammy-nominated album. But the early albums that I worked on with Stephen, I was still in college. I was still going to school. I had written a Piano from Savannah, that track, Shoestring Budget, off that album, maybe a few more. But he wrote most of the material. And he and I's writing style were pretty different. He was way more experienced than I was, and through at least the first 2 or 3 albums. And for me, in the very beginning, I was writing just lyrics and ideas down in notebooks as I was sitting in class, and probably should have been studying.
Oh, look, who of us ever studied? Come on. Yeah, I bought 2% milk the other day, and I said, why do they have my grade point average on this beverage? But, yeah. Well, you got Southern Hospitality, too, so then you get the Train. So you have, I'm assuming they're all 3 different bands.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
3 different projects, but today's age, today's time, for sure, everyone has the ability to have multiple irons in a fire, and it's actually to your benefit to set up your business in that way. And for me, the Wild Roots was one thing. Southern Hospitality became another, with a partnership between Damon Fowler, J.P. Soares, and myself, who at the time, especially, we were all kind of at the same place in our careers, and we found it very advantageous to work together. For a new project, we had Tab Benoit produce the project and write some of the songs with us and record that project with us. And he helped us get out there and sign to Blind Pig Records at that time, which Wild Roots later became a recording artist on the Blind Pig record label as well, before it was bought by The Orchard. But then eventually Victor Wainwright and the Train, like I said, of course, which was a new direction I was writing all the material for.
Yes. So, out of your all your albums, is there one that stands out that you're most proud of?
I would say The Train for surely is the album I'm most proud of, as being the first album that I had a hand in the production of it,
Okay.
and also I wrote all the songs on it. I think that The Train would definitely represent me as who I am
Mm-hmm.
the clearest and the best.
Okay. Well, I know you just got done a tour because you was pitched to me uh, by Doug the day that I interviewed Diana, and he had asked me if I would interview you, and he sent me a bunch of material on you, and he said that you were just getting done a tour. Now, talk about touring. Where do you like to go, and what are your favorite places to perform at?
Well, my favorite places to go are to the north when it's hot and to the south when it's cold. I'll just keep it as simple as that, really. We tour everywhere throughout the world. We go through to Europe and all through the United States. But I like everywhere I tour. I like going to new places, especially places that I've never been. I think is a lot of fun. Touring is hard, and that's the work part of what musicians have to do. You don't necessarily have to love it. I love performing. Driving 12 hours a day is not any fun, and it probably isn't fun to anybody. That's the work part of what we do. So when we get there and when we arrive and we play and meet our friends and fans, that is the reward for the hard work that we're doing. So, but touring, it definitely has to come. I toured almost 300 days a year about 10 years ago, 8 or 10 years ago. As I've gotten older, I try to tour less and less and try to focus on very smart tours and hitting markets that need to be hit at a certain time and trying not to stay out too long.
Well, have you ever been out this way here in New Brunswick, Canada?
I've been all over Canada. You can go to victorwainwright.com if anybody's interested on where we're coming up next. And I got a whole big Canada tour actually coming up.
Well, the reason I say it, because most people don't even know we are here.
You know what, though? It has to take a village. It definitely doesn't happen overnight, and especially not with one or two shows.
Yeah. No, a lot of people don't realize that there's a place in Canada that's even like a time zone an hour ahead of Toronto. It's us.
I was going to say, first you got to have festivals, then you got to have venues. Then bands will come through, and more people will know who we are.
Well, we do have the Harvest Jazz and Blues Festival here every year. That might be something that they could bring you in on.
They might want to give me a call.
Well, we've had Steve Earle here for that. We've had Lee Von Helm here for that, and we had a lot of local musicians as well that perform at that. But I think that would be the perfect atmosphere for you.
A great way to have international touring artists come through towns that they normally wouldn't come through. We rely on festivals pretty much all throughout the world, bring us places, and to have their local fans of roots music become exposed to touring artists. So having a festival like that right there is very, very valuable to your town, of course, and it would be something that I'd be honored to come and participate in.
All right. Well, I do need to ask if you have any charities that you're involved in that are dear to you that you would like to plug on here.
I like I really like the Pine Top Perkins Foundation. I think more people should check that out online. Teaching young adults or young kids, even to, I said young adults, teaching both young children and also adults the joy of piano playing and all the other things that the Pine Top Perkins Foundation does. Also, of course, I'm a big proponent of the Blues Foundation. They've done a whole lot to help me in my career, and in particular, the Heart Fund. That's part of the Blues Foundation, which raises money for people that might be in need, especially musicians out on the road, is the way I think of it, especially that are in need of. A lot of us don't have don't have health insurance, don't have a way to pay for certain emergencies or medical emergencies and things, and the Heart Fund is there for musicians, touring and recording artists alike in the blues world. It's just very, very important, and I'm a big supporter of those, and I try to help raise money for those and contribute myself.
Okay, yeah, those are good charities, and of course you have a website. I've been on the website, and it was of course pitched to me by Doug. But I want you to plug that right on here right now.
Okay, well, it's very simple. It's just myname.com. So it's www.victorwainwright.com. It's spelled Victor, Victor, and then Wainwright is spelled Wainwright. I think a lot of Canadians know how to spell Wainwright, though.
Well, given some of the people I've seen around, I don't know. I wouldn't give us all credit.
There's a few famous Wainwrights that hail in the Canada region.
Yeah. No, I was on the website, and I know you have your tour dates and stuff like that. But I gotta say, congratulations on your Grammy nomination. I hope I hope that it goes beyond a nomination here in the future.
Oh man, well, I tell you one thing. First off, I'm just feel very very fortunate and very lucky for that nomination. But the next album that we've already recorded and that is sitting here waiting to be released January 1st next year, I hope that everyone loves it just as much, and we're real excited about it. It shows a lot of growth with the band, and I still kept together the same exact unit, which is really hard to do in this today's age. Touring and performing. This is my touring band that performed and recorded on the last album. I got the same group together and kept them together to record another album. So I'm very, very excited. Everyone's going to be able to hear this growth and hear us really pushing hard and giving back a big amount of thanks to everyone that's shown us and encouraged us to continue going.
Is there anything you can tell us about this new album?
Not more than I just have.
Do you have a name for it already?
It's tentatively named and titled Memphis Loud.
Okay. Where do you come up with your album names? Because you got some creative names in there.
Well, the last one was just self-titled for the new band name, Victor Wainwright and the Train. And this one, I'll have to. It might be described a little more in the song, so I don't want to give it away right now.
That's okay.
The title is tentatively titled Memphis Loud, which there's going to be it's going to be a title track, obviously, and it'll do a little more explaining.
Okay. Yeah. Well, huh? No, I hope you get the Grammy. So that is going to be your dream. So, but you're at least humbled enough, that a nomination is always nice, So it's recognition in there.
Dream come true, yeah. Dream come true to be just nominated, and if I never get nominated again, it's okay. I love the band and the music, and I love the people that we're playing for, and that's what's most important.
Well, you get a good product out there. I know I've been binging on it some before since I got hooked up with this before calling you. So, but no, it's some good stuff out there, and we look forward to your new album there in the future. I guess right now you're taking it easy and sowing some wild oats, so to speak, huh?
Well, yeah. Right now, I'm actually taking time out of the studio to talk to you. I'm busy working on our next project. As soon as I got here, I started working again on this next project, which has to be mixed and little things put on. I'm producing this next one as well. So that's taking up all my focus when I'm home right now off the road. But we take back off again Thursday, I do believe, to head into Canada. We're going all throughout Ontario, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was looking through your tour dates. I don't see New Brunswick on there.
That's a shame. We got to fix that.
You got to fix that. I'll have to see what's going on with the Harvest Jazz and Blues. I know there's big things go on here for the station with that. I'm not really involved with the Harvest Jazz and Blues, but I know that there's a lot of blues shows here that are involved with it. So I think that might be something that they might to bring you in on.
Well, hopefully they're listening to this interview or will be listening soon, and they can make that happen.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it was wonderful having you on. I promised Doug that I wouldn't keep you any more than half hour, so we're approaching that right now. I think he wants you to get he wants you to get in that station there and get your stuff done.
Yeah.
He didn't say that,
really
but
take your time on Greg and of course CHSR and everything that you guys are involved with. It again, it's a village for roots music, and DJs play a very integral role, and it's something that I don't overlook, and that I'm very thankful for.
Well, we have a show here called Rosie's Juke Joint, hosted by Roger Jean, and I know he was quite excited. He does a bluesgrass show, and and I asked him, I said, you should come on in and join me with this interview. He's not a big interview person, but I know he loves blues music, so he he perked right up and he found out I was interviewing you. So
tell Rosie I say hello, and I look forward to catching the show sometime.
There you go. Listen, before you go, I was wondering if you would do a shout out for my show, a plug for my show.
Hello, this is Victor Wainwright, and you are listening to Python's Paradise in New Brunswick, Canada, with my friend Greg Gilbert. Now turn it up and enjoy.
Thank you so much, Victor. God bless you, and I really hope that you get out here sometime in the future, and I'm going to keep checking out your... What's that?
I said, let's make it happen, brother. I appreciate you very much, too.
Well, you know what? Doug introduced me to you, after Diana, so I was happy what I've seen, so I look forward to seeing more.
Thank you so much, brother. I look forward to it, too. Okay?
All right, you take care.
Thank you. God bless.